everybody. Welcome to the Scho-Zone. It's your host, Ryan Schofield, coming at you live on a Monday afternoon from my little studio here in Albany, New York. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody that has been adding as a subscriber. Nobody is tuning in right now, but that does not mean that anyone will not see this. And if you're a new subscriber, bear with me for a couple minutes. And if you are an existing subscriber, please spread the word out there. Let's get some more people following this. A little more interaction while I'm doing this makes life a little easier for me. That being said, starting off this week, and hopefully it goes a lot better than last week did in the world, but it's not off to a great start. We're in the middle of a bit of a economic meltdown, perhaps, or, the stock market is not doing very well, which means everybody has now turned into an economist on the internet, which is wonderful because, I don't know that many people that work in economy, but, everyone is telling me what to do right now. 2 weeks ago, I've been really big on a stock called Kava. Went over that on an episode a while ago. Hey, what's up, Katie? Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Hopefully, you didn't get your heart broken by, you think you were a Pittsburgh fan. Skeens didn't have it yesterday, or he didn't get the win. I shouldn't say he didn't have it. I mean, his bad performance is like is an ace performance for anybody on the Cardinals, which we will get there. But no, a couple weeks ago, I bought into the stock Kava. It was going good. I kind of looked at some underlying indicators, not that I'm a fucking genius myself or anything, but just happened to look at, Robinhood and seeing that, oh, wow, there's a lot of people selling this and hedge funds are buying this. That's usually recipe for disaster. I got out around $90 this morning. I woke up, it was at like $69. So, hey, if I can always buy back in, the money hasn't gone anywhere, but everyone that says buy the dip, that's for people who have money, I would say. I'm playing it safe, but I don't ever really tend to be political or anything, but it's just the elephant in the room if you talk about sports or if you like to talk about controversy the way that I do. I will start this off by saying I really don't care about the Olympics, and it's nothing to do with on any moral. Actually, it is on a moral ground, but not for the reasons that most people may be ignoring the Olympics this year. Me, for the Olympics, I treat that the way that some people who felt negatively towards college sports did, where everybody is getting rich but the athletes. So really have some issues with that. Also, as I've studied, FIFA being probably one of the most corrupt organizations in the world, international sports in general seem to be pretty corrupt as far as, there are certain places, if they host the Olympics, it's not really a big deal. For example, if the Olympics are hosted in LA, they don't really have to change much about LA. The infrastructure is in place. It's just, hey, we just got to rework the schedules a little bit. In some other countries some other cities across the world where various international events have been held, those places are in ruins, okay? Because they build up all these things for a one-time event, and then they just sit there for the rest of the time. I believe Athens, Greece has undergone hasn't really had the best run of it since they host the Olympics. Also, too, I just really am not a big fan of anything that is going to become politicized, which unfortunately that means just about everything at this point. But the Olympics, they brought up a deeper point to me. One, this is how much we really should hate and distrust media. And two, just why the internet is just a cesspool and breeding ground of negativity and just really ignorant thoughts. So unless you've been living under a rock, which I actually am jealous of you. I wish I could move to under a rock sometimes. You have probably come across the story in women's boxing that's been going on in the Olympics. I'm going to be as neutral as I possibly can on this one, much like I was in my WNBA debates, but sometimes I may carry any type of emotion I'm going to have towards this is going to be towards the reaction towards it, not the actual incident itself. So I just sit here that, again, I believe the purpose of the media and the news is to inform us of what's going on. The relationship that we kind of have is that they're going to present us the facts. And then that's does our job for us. We don't have to become investigative reporters ourselves, which, by the way, now, if you do consume any type of media or news, shit, even if you're watching the Scho-Zone right now, you might want to fucking verify something I'm saying. That sucks, okay? That the reason that this was supposed to exist was supposed to free up my time so I could go about living my life, but still feel informed of what's going on in the world. So yes, I look at this at its surface. When you find out that, as it was presented to us at first, that a transgender woman was in a women's boxing event and beat a woman but to submission in 46 seconds. That was the way the story was presented. A woman was beaten into submission in 46 seconds. Again, if it don't bleed, it don't lead. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. Or if it bleeds, it leads. So you got to always use the most negative language possible in that. then you see the video of it, and it's, a girl gets punched in the face twice, which again, I've always been a little strange about watching women's combat sports. That's just a personal preference of me. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it or anything, but as a free consumer, I prefer to watch women do other stuff. But, if they're great fighters, then, and there's an audience for them, everyone's free to watch it. I like watching sports that nobody likes to watch. I'm a huge baseball fan, and trust me, I get shit about it all the time. Not turning it into a gender thing, turning it into a sport related thing. So, yeah, if you see that headline, yeah, you would probably go, oh, that's a little strange. I did not know that when I was presented an article by, I guess, or, even a news story by what we would like to think are reputable outlets. The fact that we have to criticize where information comes from is already, we're on strike one right now. So if I read if I see a 2-minute news story, I now have to spend the next hour of my life to verify a reaction to that, which, don't get me wrong, I actually do myself, but I'm just saying that's a pretty fucked up arrangement we have going on right now. So instantly, or apparently I was supposed to be well versed in all of the athletes in the Olympics before it even started. Okay, well, again, I work, the Olympics are going on in a different hemisphere. I have my schedule, they have their schedule. I catch things, which I do. I'm at the point of that I really just almost want to turn all notifications off my phone, because if ignorance is bliss, if I didn't know what was going on, I'd probably be much fucking happier. But then it comes around of that, so this woman, why it became so known, because again, why would we know so much about a person's personal, makeup, I guess we would say. But the story had been is that this particular fighter had been banned from an event by a different boxing agency. Well, now it comes into question, okay, that boxing agency has been discredited over the past few years, but you can be, it's always just muddied now because you cannot be in line with things. So there was a story going out there that this, this IBA, the International Boxing Association, has a strong Russian influence with them. And the story that came about was that she was only banned from this event that she was in. There was not that, it was not, well, it was two parts. I have all this down, I swear, I promise you. I'm just trying not to read off a sheet of paper. Was determined that her and another fighter, though born as women, do not have male reproductive organs, has an XY chromosome, which can lead to a inflated production of testosterone, which can alter your muscle development. And thus, this is just a weird one for me. I know that I got in trouble saying this in front of people who, again, it's amazing how you can cite science, and people who will be the ones that would have told you a few years ago to trust the science will get an issue with you. I studied physical education for a while, and also I'm very, very well versed in sports. And it's not a controversial statement to say that men have better lean muscle mass than women do and have stronger bone densities. And in an event where you are hitting something that might really cause, the girl from Italy, she had said that she had never been hit that hard, and that's why she disqualified, she backed out of the fight. She just didn't see it, as going well for her. Now, of course, you can read some outlets that will now say that, well, she has a history of being a whiner and all this stuff, which again, I don't know that to be true, but again, that was something that was out there. Do I have to go investigate this, that she was crying and everything? But the story became that this Russian organization had a motive. That's the woman in question that I'm speaking of right now, and another woman, I believe a Taiwanese fighter, if that's how you say that, North Taiwan, I believe she was from, or maybe it was Chinese Taipei. I'm sorry. Again, I'm the worst, but I should probably, maybe if I'm going to present myself as a news outlet, I should maybe have this all verified. But either way, that's all irrelevant. They were two women who apparently failed this gender test. Okay. And people said, oh, it was because they beat Russian fighters. I found it very problematic of my own, of that, I couldn't find a fight history to verify that conclusion or not, or it was not very, very easy. I know that on an old podcast I had, a buddy of mine, we had on a guy who was like an 0-9 lifetime MMA fighter and was like completely an amateur. I had no problem looking up his record. But somebody who's competing in the Olympics, I have a hard time actually getting their fight record. Now, again, she's only had one professional fight, and she's 1-0 in that one. She has not lost in, I believe, since 2022, actually. again, could be irrelevant information, but this whole narrative, that became of that. So okay, and the story about being transgender was 100% wrong. She is not a transgender. That one can be accepted. That's a problem I've always had, and I started seeing this in sports media a while ago for less significant ordeals, but you would have the sports media person who would report a story and say sources confirm, and then 2 days later find out that that was completely false. But it's like, well, wait, you had sources that said this. There became this kind of like a contest to get to the finish line first with news, which I never knew that was the purpose of news, to be first. I thought it was to present it the best and most thoroughly. And that's really, really a problem, is that people just want to just get out there. And if they're wrong about things, we just typically just forget about it. Thanks God for things like awful announcing and freezing cold takes, who can kind of expose that some people maybe rush to judgment on there. Now, for the most part, many people in media the batting average is very, very high. As much as I do not like Stephen A. Smith, I do recall him on a show one time mentioning, hey, I have to go on and I have to talk about this many topics, this many days of the week, this many times of the year. So yes, I'm going to be wrong a lot because there's a lot of volume. I totally understand that. But when you're the one that is breaking news, I don't think you're allowed to be wrong on that one. Now, again, everything has to be politicized. So I don't know who ran the first story. I have an idea of who it was. And yes, they do lean a little bit towards a certain direction. And that's always dangerous, because people now live in little echo chambers. They will always seek for confirmation bias. They will always try to have their opinion validated, never ever want to change their opinion. I'll be honest with that, I guess I want to say the biggest thing about all this, I really don't fucking care. That's kind of, which is going to sound strange to some people, as far as I never ever, and I'm not changing anything, okay? That women's boxing exists almost in a world that does not exist to me. Now, the way I would answer this and the way I would ask to anybody that watched that, would you want your daughter going into the ring with that opponent? I would probably say no. I don't have a daughter to think of in there, and I am not going to think on behalf of your daughters. This is a real fucking issue that I have, is that every fucking macho man now, as I always tell people who may think I am misogynistic or against women, I am not whatsoever. What I will say is I am all for you pursuing whatever you believe that you are entitled to. I don't necessarily have to help you to do that. I will not get in your way, is the way that I will say that. So when it comes to things like, transgender issues, or even in the case of women's rights, I want what's best for everybody. But ultimately, I can't decide what is best for you, okay? That is very, very irresponsible of me. So again, we have a lot of men who are very, very, very want to be in charge of women to an extent, which I just say, hey, man, just let them sort this all out. It's very, very interesting to me that if I was to look through the women on my social media, which again is not the best representation of society, I would say, especially if they're okay with a guy like me, I would say that, hey, they let them figure this one out, because I see a 50-50 split amongst the group that's even in question here. Okay. Again, I don't know, exactly where to come across on that one, but most people are involved in somebody else's battle. And we always criticize that about other people. Hey, stay in your lane, pick your own fights, fight your own fights, kind of deal. Don't just, don't get involved if you don't have to. Everybody uses it as a great platform to talk about how wonderful they are, which maybe I'm doing right now by saying I just ignore it all. I kind of think that this is a much better way of going through it, to this whole incident and experience. But, it's to the point now where then a couple days afterwards, the memes started coming out, and again, once you start seeing the alternating capital and lowercase letters, that's when you just know you want to stop talking to that person, because they're just a douchebag, plain and simple. But you start seeing the meme about, oh, let's get upset about the woman in there, when there's actually a rapist for the Netherlands competing. Two things can be true. That's just going out there. And again, the reason why I was never even so irate about anything in the first place, but the reason why people who may have been upset about a potentially unfair boxing match were irate about that was because it was presented to them. They are not, just they're tuned on that one. I don't know anybody who follows Dutch volleyball players. I'm sure if there's some degenerates in my circle that, bet on that type of shit, they might know about it. But most people, I couldn't tell you anything about, that's part of the Olympics. We discover things about these people who compete from our own country. Okay. We find out facts about them throughout this. We are not well versed in their story. I live in Albany, New York. There's a hometown kid that was in the Olympics. I didn't know that up until he was there. Okay. I mean, does that make me a horrible human being? No, there's other things that make me a horrible human being. That just means that I had my attention focused elsewhere. So yes, I was not aware that there was a Dutch, which by the way, does anybody think that, oh, because I care that there was a possibly unfair boxing match, that means I am okay with a rapist in in the Olympic events? No, I'm not. But that also kind of proves a point, is that maybe the IOC doesn't do the best job of saying who should not be allowed. There's just a thought for you right there. I don't know. Just trying to get some thoughts on this. There's some thinking on this one. But it's just really kind of exposed why the internet is the worst. And as I say, I deleted Twitter off of my phone. I still have the account because I still go on there, because every now and again, I do want to see something else. Like, for example, when I see that, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run the other day that won me some money. Within 2 minutes, I can just type in Ohtani on Twitter and bam, I'll get all the videos I want of it. That's a wonderful thing. There are some goods for this. The problem is that if I go into the comments section, I'm going to see a bunch of asshole idiots who fucking still think that he's the biggest gambler on the face of the earth, and that he got his translator to take the fall for him because they're too fucking lazy to read a 37-page court document. And even after they do, they just say, oh, well, the Department of Justice is compromised, because that's what the Department of Justice is in the business of doing, is freeing athletes who are evading the government of thousands or millions and millions of dollars, okay? No, they were putting a fucking criminal in behind bars. And I happen to enjoy Shohei Ohtani, so I've done my research on him, and I will say that if he actually was guilty of what was accused, or by the internet police, not by the actual courts of laws, then he is probably the most diabolical, evil person on the face of the earth. Or I could just believe everything else that's been said about him, or that has been documented pretty well, okay? I know I started this off by saying you should not believe everything that's read, but the Shohei Ohtani story seems to have a lot of credible sources. And, the fact of the matter is that he's just fucking awesome. And maybe I wouldn't even care. That's me saying I'm not a perfect person to you. But everybody now, I don't really know much about what has happened in the sports or in the Olympics. I know that has been the lead story. That, or we now have to go to one of the highlights things. It's a nice, pleasant, happy-go-lucky story, or just something we all had a little fun with, was the Turkish sharpshooter who took the silver medal, okay? And that was just the guy who was just in sunglasses. It was the most calm, laid-back guy ever, lacing targets with a fucking pistol. But now that became a sexist issue because he had a female partner and we didn't focus on her. Or how about the fact that the guy didn't win gold? He was the silver medal. Can we just have a little bit of fun, okay? The guy had a cool picture with a fucking cat with him. Now, again, I know that all the stories that were written about him, about how he started shooting over an argument with his wife, that was probably not true. I accepted that the second I read it. I didn't go exactly on a full scale, research of him. I just said, hey, I'm just going to pretend that this is true because it amuses me, okay? No harm in that story whatsoever. I don't think. I wasn't casting any major judgments or anything like that. I wasn't going, oh, women are the worst because look what they made this guy do. I was just saying, oh, that's funny if it's true. If they made a movie about it, you would probably watch it and be entertained, okay? Now we have to have the fucking Mount Pious fucking people tell us that, oh, no, what about his female opponent on there? Does she even care? That's the thing, is that I always go on. Like, one thing that irritates me more than anything, and this is actually something I echo all the time, getting upset on my behalf about something I am not upset about actually bothers me more than me being upset about something I'm upset about, if that makes sense. So let's let these people decide. If that person says, hey, it'd be nice if you paid attention to me, okay, then we can get back in her corner. But I don't think that this was made out to be a sexist issue. Much like somebody posted a picture of Simone Biles jumping and said that she could jump over Victor Wembanyama. And someone pointed out, yes, there's springs on the floor. And that there was a comment that immediately said, oh, always got to take a black woman down on this one. We went from saying we could have this conversation without her being a woman or being black. We can just say that, okay, any gymnast that's jumping 12 feet in the air is being aided by the system that they're jumping on right there. There isn't a man out there that's jumping. They're going, well, this way to make everyone more comfortable. We would, if there was a poster saying a white man was jumping 12 feet over there, trust me when I say that I'm sure that there would be a comment section filled about how bullshit that is. I would also be part of that group. Okay. I know what we can do and know what we can't do. The point of this being all is that the internet just fucking sucks. Okay. And I really think we just need to get further away from it. And it's only going to get worse as we get closer to this election here, because, oh God, it's just, It's bad news. And part of the thing I made the internet, you could actually read the internet and possibly believe that the St. Louis Cardinals are a good baseball team. That's was one. Actually, if you watched ESPN last night, I just can't help but laugh. And yes, it can be true. The Cardinals have the best record in the National League, I think, over the last 72 games going into last night. They can that's true. You can't dispute that. That's a stat. I can still say that they fucking suck, though, okay? Because while they're the best team in the past 72 games, I still think the run differential has stayed right where I've been hammering this point for a couple weeks on this show. You can go back and watch it, which I totally encourage. They're a negative 42 run differential. I am sorry. That's just not going to work for me. I get your job is to win the games, but I feel a little better about how you're winning the games if you actually are winning them somewhat convincingly, okay? There's a nice little de facto power rating you can use if you look into the gambling worlds about how good or bad a team actually is. That's using the run line indicator, okay? The run line in baseball is when you are a favorite, you are minus 1.5 runs. And when you are an underdog, you are plus 1.5 runs. A good record or a good performance in that will show that, okay, when we win convincingly. And when we lose, hey, we were just right there. There's a very, very high volatility from year to year in how a team performs in one-run games. Now, certain teams can be built a little bit more so to do better in these environments than others. I would probably say that, the 80s Cardinals, the Whitey Ball era, they would be a team that I would expect to excel in one-run games because of the way they built their team. They built it on defense and pitching and the stolen base, not power and whatsoever. That worked very, very well in the 80s. Go look it up. The Cardinals were wonderful there. The problem I have is that it feels like they're trying to kind of play the same kind of baseball in 2024, and I feel like that the game has passed them by just a little bit. Relying on winning games by one run is not, you want to win by as many as possible. The Cardinals seem very anemic on offense. I just will say that. And because they have some names that have had some great careers, we are always just going, he's back. And I will say this, and I know the home announcer's job is to build enthusiasm on the team, but Skip, I keep forgetting if it's Skip or Chip with the fucking kid. I really am the worst for the side. I think it's Skip Carey. Let's just go on with that. Paul Goldschmidt did hit a home run on Friday night. He then hit a line drive to the center fielder at the top of the ninth inning in a game that they were winning by 2, I believe. Yeah, they're winning by 2 at that point. And literally just off that line drive, it was a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He took it to dead center field, right at the center fielder. And to pronounce that Goldie is back based off of that, when I don't think he had a hit the fucking rest of the weekend, is just rush the judgment. I think that ESPN last night was referring to Miles Michaelis as an ace of the Cardinals. The sad thing is that the ace of the Cardinals at this point, if you really put a gun to my head and said, fucking, who do you want to win you this game for the Cardinals? I probably would just say, just do the humane thing and just pull the trigger, but rather than making me watch that game. But I would actually probably go with Kyle Gibson at this point, which is hilarious because he was probably the person I was most critical of in the offseason that signed with them. I just don't want it to be Sonny Gray, or I don't believe it to be Sonny Gray. I think Sonny Gray has the highest upside of any pitcher on our team, but the way that he has performed throughout the year, it's just, there's some games he's cruising along and then he gets to 70 pitches and then all of a sudden he's rocked. He can strike out 10 one day and then he might not get you out of the fifth inning the other day. I want some kind of consistency and reliability. Basically, I've been dying for Chris Carpenter to walk back into my life. He was the best Cardinals pitcher of my lifetime. It was not Adam Wainwright, and I will argue that till I'm blue in the face or Cardinals red in the face. But it's fitting that if you have the last name Gibson, that you should probably be trusted in the Cardinals. As far as I'm concerned, he can have the nickname Gibby compared to what else is out there. But I really will say that, this weekend went very south, and I'm going to put a lot of it. So I'm going to say right now, the Ollie Marmol decision to challenge the stolen base, the Nico Horner stolen base in the bottom of the ninth inning, with Dansby Swanson up to bat, about to be in an 0-2 count against Helsley, who is, for starters, I love how, Helsley gets the first out of the inning and Cody Bellinger comes up and our announcers say, well, Bellinger can only make it a one-run game now, almost just setting that negativity that it's always a possibility someone can hit the one over the wall. But then Cody Bellinger does exactly that, makes it a 4-3 game. Nico Horner, I think that he got the next, I think Helsley got the next guy out, but then Nico Horner, takes a first pitch. If Helsley, most guys are going to take a first pitch against a fireballer like against Helsley. He was waiting for it. He pop one up the middle, gets a single. Dansby Swanson comes up to bat. 0-1. Then on pitch 2, it's another strike, and we throw down to second base, and Nico Horner gets the steal to get in a scoring position to tie the game up. And I didn't even think the play was particularly close. I thought he was safe by a considerable distance. Ollie Marmol then decides that the right thing to do is to challenge that play right there, because that can end the game right there. I have so many fucking problems with that. Okay, for starters, pretend the runner on there doesn't exist. You've got your fucking all-star closer on the mound, okay? One of the few guys out of the bullpen that I feel like I can trust on a routine basis. I know Jojo Romero can do some amazing things, and then other time he can scare the fucking shit out of me. Kittredge, same thing. I mean, for the most part, I actually would say I trust him. I will say I also found it hilarious that I just had advertised to me on the internet a Gallegos jersey, which I feel like is the algorithm and AI just saying, fuck you, Ryan. They just, they pissed me off for a moment or two. Again, really need to stay off the internet, go touch some grass, maybe vagina even. But I lost my fan here. Hopefully she wasn't offended by my comments or commentary on there. We'll have to check the subscribers to see if we lost some subscribers too. But anyway, so Ollie Marmol, makes the challenge out there, which was never going to get overturned, which I just almost feel like is like, show some confidence in your fucking guy out there. Even if he was out as it out could be, okay, you've got your guy out there. He just needs to get one more strike, ball game over. Well, from the other side of things too, is I'd imagine as a hitter down 0-2 against a guy like Helsley, that's really not an ideal spot to be in with his pitch arsenal. Well, now you give Dansby Swanson a little break to rethink things. And then also you give your relief pitcher, you break his rhythm up. I mean, let's just face it. A starting pitcher, one of the biggest differences of a starting pitcher and a relief pitcher is the ability to have that break in the action and get right back out there. Okay. So a reliever, some guys don't like, which is always a complaint I had about the ghost runners, that some guys just really do well when they inherit runners on base. They don't pitch well from the stretch. They pitch in the windup. If they inherit their own mess, let them deal with it. But when you force them to inherit a mess, I don't like it necessarily so much. But Helsley, after that challenge, which was not won, was never the same. Literally at that point, he was just serving up meatballs. And I mean, well, not meatballs necessarily, but fact of the matter is that the Cubs got all the hits that they needed and walked that game off, and that set a very, very bad losing tone. So just when you can feel good about how the Cardinals were on the verge of getting swept by the Nationals, and they come back and get a win there, and then they go on and take a series from the fucking Rangers, now it's been the story with this team the entire fucking year. One step forward, 2 steps back. They're 5.5 games back in the division. I want to say 2 or 3 games back from the wild card. I just say that I don't care if they make the playoffs. Does that make me a bad fan? Maybe, but here's my reason why. I don't want to be stuck in this cycle of mediocrity where the front office can get away with things and saying that, hey, we were in there, we were competing. No, we're not, okay? The retread of Tommy Pham, okay? And which, by the way, actually, I love the Tommy Pham thing for the mood. Is that it's good to see that somebody has a fucking pulse in the clubhouse now, and maybe, just maybe, he can inspire some people. He comes out hitting the Pham Slam, as it'll be known. That might be the highlight of the 2024 season, the Pham Slam, where we actually thought we might have been back into it for a little bit. Fact of the matter is that as much as I love Tommy Pham on this team, he was still a negative WAR player coming into this season. And now we are actually forced to it was a great proactive move, I guess, because now losing Michael Ciani to an oblique injury means that we have lost some depth in the already, I don't have a problem with any of our outfielders. I just have a problem that all of them collectively make up our outfield when you look at all of the other names that have been part of the organization in a while. I feel like that we might have one of the worst groups of them going, but again, making the playoffs will be worse than it would be good, because I just don't see this team competing in a series. Now, again, it is baseball, but I really think that this mess has been extended on, is that this is the same way that the Cardinals fans were talking in 2021, and then they ripped off a 17-game win streak. And then what happened afterwards? They lost miserably. It was a miserable experience in the playoffs, I should say. They were well on their way to winning game 1 of the LDS. Maybe Ryan Helsley, to his detriment, told Schulte that he was okay when he in fact wasn't. But it's also the manager's job to know. I want a guy who's always going to tell me he's okay, but it's up to the manager's job to determine that he's not. But yeah, just not a real big reason to be excited. But hey, I still rock the Cardinals gear because it matches the aesthetic, and still never going to take back. I mean, the Cardinals, ultimately, I will not trade my fandom experience over the years for this, but I am we're going through it a little bit right now. I mean, it's been 5 years since they won a playoff series now at this point. Yeah, 2019, they beat the Braves and then lost to the Nationals, who ended up winning the World Series. But, they have a tendency to lose to the eventual champion. I will say that much. But, you got to beat the best to be the best. And just lately, they have not been the best. And that's really been an issue. So I'm, hoping that things get better going forward, but they haven't exactly. What plan do they have in place? When you sign a bunch of 30-plus-year-old pitchers to 1-year deals, what are we getting out of here? I mean, and when you have the tendency to where when a guy makes it, all the way his entire life, he's a great baseball player, all the way playing is up through the Cardinals organization, great baseball player. Then they make it to the organization, and then when they're wearing this logo and these colors, they don't seem to play their best. Then they go to a different organization. They already seem to be going well. I noticed Dylan Carlson seems to be doing some things for the Rays already. Also, Christopher Morel, when the Cubs traded him, I was like, well, there goes. He's going to hit like 20 home runs the rest of the year. He's already got a few. The Rays, when you do business with them, understand you just got fucked and you just got taken. That's just plain and simple the way it is. All this could be worse. I could be a White Sox fan, but as I always say, the whole thing that started me as a changed man this summer was I was in St. Louis to see the Cardinals lose a series to that very White Sox team I just mentioned, which was god awful. But then since then, I've been to 10 ballparks and I've actually grown a love of baseball, just not necessarily a deeper love of baseball, not a love of baseball, but maybe just not as strong of a love of the St. Louis Cardinals. As Katie Barnhart, who apparently sat behind me in Pittsburgh, she probably heard some words come out of my mouth I wouldn't say in front of my grandmother, but, actually I probably said them anyways, but grandmother just wasn't very happy. But, if the game I saw, I was at the Cardinals game in Pittsburgh where they scored 0 runs. I have been to 3 Cardinals games this year. I can say it again. 3 Cardinals games, 3 Cardinals runs. I don't believe I've seen a home run hit by a St. Louis Cardinal, which is very depressing because I feel like that every game I used to go to used to have one. Why? Because they had a guy like Albert Pujols. That certainly helped. But it is what it is. But, maybe I'm part of the problem because I'm putting it out there. But again, I just really, really wish that, because I just want to ask with everybody who was so quick. I've been doing my thing of that. I have not exposed my side of this one because I don't really have a side. I don't really care. Women's boxing never existed to me in the Olympics up until this story became on the forefront. And then mostly I wasn't a part of that story. I'm always a part of the reactions to the story. And I would just kind of say that what does everybody get out of this? The guys that are posting out this is bullshit or like that, the people that are rushing to the defense, what do you get out of this? Everybody has to prove that they're a great human being, I guess. And you know what? We're all not, okay? That's one of the things we all got to accept. We're all far from perfect. Just try to get a little bit better every day. So if you could take something from this, I would totally say so. Again, and just, George Carlin, I argue I was raised by George Carlin. Don't believe what the media tells you. Don't believe what the government tells you. It's a sad state of affairs that you have to do your own research in order to have an opinion about something, because you're supposed to just be able to, the news isn't supposed to have a side. They're just supposed to present the facts to you. And they're not doing a very, very good job of that lately. I always think of, and then now actually when you are even looking up for your own self, you have to keep in mind what you are even citing from there. I will kind of end this with the Carlinism. George Carlin often said, not often, but he once said, if a word was spelled wrong in the dictionary, how would we ever really know? If I go to look up a fact and that fact is incorrect, but it's presented as correct, how am I really supposed to know? At the end of the day, really only firsthand testimony can only be, can be the only thing you use. I know what I see and experience with my own eyes. Those are what I'm going to take with me the most. You can trust somebody to tell you what they have seen, but I really hate that we've gotten to a point that who can you really trust? And I will leave you on that note. Everybody, thank you for tuning into the Scho-Zone. Again, I'm going to try to start having some guests on here. My buddy was supposed to be on last night, but then at the very, very last second, he told me he had some interactions with a female that he had planned. I will I'll never, ever get upset at anybody. If you cancel on me for a date with a pretty lady, go you. That's all I can say. Everybody tune in. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and just leave a comment, anything. Even if you hated it, just let me know what I did, how I did, and we will see you as the summer wraps up. I will start being able to have a more consistent schedule. I realized I want to have eyeballs on this. I should probably have a set day and time. life's a little bit hectic. Next week, I will be in Minneapolis. I will be in Target Field. I will probably be doing some type of live from my hotel, maybe even live from the ballpark. If you happen to be in the Minneapolis area and you want to welcome me to town or maybe just punch me in the face, let's go, baby. I'm all for it. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.